Hey, I just wanted to show off a few of my favorite Canvas quiz tricks with the new question types to get kids ready for STAR. So, the first one that I have is I love to create a table for any kind of fill in the blank. I like to do drop downs or drag and drops, and it just helps the kids to understand where things go and get straight, especially because they struggle with paying close attention and reading carefully. So it kind of just gives them a little bit of something extra to help them out and stay organized. This one is great because I have both things happening, which they have started doing more on CBAs. So I thought it would be good to have them practice. And here it lets them choose on each one what it might be. And then at the bottom, they can drag and drop. Because if I just had them fill in these blanks, there's going to be a lot of spelling mistakes, even if it is written right here, but you know how it works. Examples, I was just worried that maybe they would put one that maybe I hadn't thought of and not get credit. So to make it easier, I just gave examples that they knew, and that way they could drag and drop. One thing I do want to show you that is a great thing to tell your kids in case they don't already know. If they are trying to do this and they struggle with drag and drops because it sometimes will make them back out and leave the quiz, or it might just not fall where they want it to, they can click the answer box and then it becomes a drop down. So that helps for our kids that don't have the dexterity to drag and drop. And I know for a fact that CBAs do this and STAR options do this as well. Another I like to do is I like to put true and false into categories on Canvas. I like to put in true as category 1, false as category 2, and then I can do multiple statements and instead of having to do every single one of these as an individual question, because let's be real, when they see that there are more than 10 questions, they freak out. For this one, I did drop downs again. I just felt like it would be easier than having the kids type it in. In science, we don't necessarily have to count off for spelling. Some teachers do, but I have most of my kids that have the accommodation to not count off for spelling, and that just helps us out. So drop downs are a friend of mine. Here, again, I have a drag and drop, but as always, click it and it gives you everything. The nice part is if you click it and use one, when you click the next one, it's not an option anymore, which is helpful to the kids so they don't accidentally use one twice, which some teachers hadn't noticed that it does this. And I just wanted to clarify that it does. I believe it does that on CBAs, and I'm 90% sure that it does that on STAR. I have not tested it on STAR. This is another one that I really like. It's hard to find uses for it, but when I do, it's always a hit with the kids. It's just ordering. So I would give them this, and instead of having to worry again about spelling or forgetting one, I can just have them drag and drop, which they do. So domain, kingdom, phylum, and then they can drag class, and then order, and then family, and then genus, and then species. And then that way they can get their points. I love this too because I set it on partial credit. So if they get some of them in the right area and some of them not, it will give them some of their points. So this one is worth 8 points. Each one that is correctly placed gets a point. Another type that I want to show you is the stimulus. So they have been giving us a lot of really great reading material for science lately, and I wanted to show you that I still put this in quizzes. We put this in as a stimulus, and then it mirrors how they would see it in STAR or a CBA. This is just a regular multiple choice, but I just attach the questions and they can keep going. It even works with different question types. So this one is matching, and they have to match the definition to the question. They have to touch the definition and the process. Here's another drop down. I gave them lots of options. This is actually, these sentences are taken directly from the passage, so this is really seeing if they're even reading it or if they're just guessing. Here, another simple one, drag and drop, another drop down, simple multiple choice, drop down. This one I love because they've been doing this a lot with kids, of saying select all that apply. The boxes are different. If you notice, in a multiple choice, the boxes are like the answers come in circles. But on a multiple answer, when they're supposed to check off, it's going to give them a box. So that is one way that I tell my kids to look and see if they're supposed to do a multi-select. Check the shape next to the word. If it's a box, they know that they are probably going to select at least two. Not always, but I tell them it's a good chance that you're going to select at least two or more. And if it's a circle, they only have to select one. So now I'm going to get into how do you make these? So the first one I wanted to talk to you guys about was the fill in the blank with the drag and drops. Now, the way that I make these is I just add in a fill in the blank question with the plus sign. So whenever I click it, I click fill in the blank. But instead of just leaving it as a blank space, so the open entry, I will use the word bank. And that creates the drag and drop section for the kids to know what words are being used. I just make sure that I give the correct answer, and the best part is I don't have to worry about any kind of typing mistake, unless it's mine, because let's be real, we all make those. But I usually give 1 point for each blank, so that if they get some of them right, then it doesn't give some weird decimal number that I then have to round later. You can add distractors, which is really nice. If you have some misconceptions that kids keep switching definitions or something, that's a great way to test out if they truly know it, is by adding the distractor. When you click the plus sign, you will just say that you want to add an ordering question. When you're setting this up, you're going to type your instructions, and then you are going to type your specifications. So you might put least to greatest, or in this case, it's the broadest group to the most specific group. And then I would add a layer for each one in the correct order. And when the kids get it, you can choose to give them the labels, which if you choose no, then they would really have to make sure that they pay attention. That's when you would say which one goes at the top and which one goes at the bottom. For this case, I put top and then bottom in there just to help them out if they didn't notice these, because they are kind of subtle and there's no way to bold them. But again, I give 1 point each. And it does give them credit for the ones that they get right. Here, I do the same thing that I did before I add a fill in the blank. But instead of open entry, I will use drop down, which is the middle option. Drop down, though, is a little bit extra steps because you have to fill in options. If they only have one option for their drop down, they know what the answer is. So in this case, it was to tell the difference between each of the groups. So they would have to know, is it class or phylum? So in the question, it kind of gave them the options. So I just gave those as the options. You can also put in those distractors there as an option as well. Again, I just give 1 point for each. Now for the true false, I will, instead of hitting true false, I will actually do categorization. And when you add categorization, you can do category 1, category 2. And so I will make category 1 true, category 2 false, and then I give all of my true statements here, all my false statements here. And you can add more categories and more answers for however many you need. Like I said before, this is really helpful for getting to do multiple true-false questions at a time. Instead of having to have 5, or in this case, 7 individual questions, I can make 1. And it's less daunting to look at for the kids. You can also add distractors, so that would just be one that's not used at all. And you would just have to, in the instructions, I would tell the kids, not all will be used. But in a true-false situation, it's going to be one or the other. If you were to do other categories other than true or false and you needed a distractor, you could. I've also done this when I taught math to have them sort between rational and irrational numbers. You can do whatever categories you need to. Okay, now this one is my favorite hack. This is the table. Now, again, it's another fill in the blank. For this one, I have a mixture. So I'm going to enlarge this. I just decided to do insert and then table. And I knew that I had 4 questions. So I put 5 rows, and then I did 1 for each of the categories and where they had to answer. This just helps to organize it. So they have unicellular or multicellular. In here, I just type in the actual answer. By the way, because I forgot to say this earlier, these little tick marks, it took me forever. They are not commas like I thought they were for a while, but they're actually the little back tick that is right next to the number 1 on your keyboard underneath the escape button. That is what tells it. If you look up here, I actually used to just copy and paste the word blue and change the word because I couldn't figure it out. But now that I have it, I wanted to offer that. But I just change these to drop down. I give them the 2 options, or in some cases, 3 options. This one was a lot, so just be prepared. Some of them, the bigger the table, the more things there are. This one ended up having 24, and that is okay. It was a lot of prep work, but it's so much easier than having each of these as an individual question, because that's 24 things asked in one question. Now, I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to show you how to attach the stimulus from the other quiz that I had made. So, with the stimulus, you're going to click the plus button, and then you can say add stimulus, and it's going to give you these options. You're going to put in the title. I usually just copy and paste whatever the title of the article is, and then the content. I need you to know that I use screenshots because Snap and Read will still work on the screenshots for the kids. If you try to put in a PDF, it's going to link it and then it will open it in another tab, and that's just not as helpful. So just take a screenshot of each page of your article and then you can just paste them right in here. So if you take screenshots, you'll see here, this is actually just an image. And so is this one. This was a 2-page article that I just took screenshots of. And then when I was done, I could attach the questions on the side using these plus buttons on just the half instead of the full thing. And that helped a lot. So yeah, I hope this helps. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to make these. If you have any questions or if there's any that you want to know about that I haven't covered, feel free to email me. Yeah, thanks so much.